So LYNN Hughes, welcome to the show.
Thanks, nice to be here.
And so Docs in Progress, based out of Silver Spring, Maryland. Tell me a little bit more about who you are, what you do, what you've been up to.
Okay, so I'm an independent filmmaker and a producer. I was part of the Docs in Progress fellow team this year. I think there were 12 of us that were chosen to do a year-long fellowship with Docs in Progress around films that we had in various stages of production. And Docs in Progress is a local nonprofit that aids documentary filmmakers. They're based in Silver Spring, and they've done a lot of great programs over the years.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit offline, and yeah, there was a partner I did a very indie documentary with about this guy and some family drama that he had in Chicago, but he was discussing taking it to Docs in Progress and taking it from there. But I don't think I don't think I talked to this guy in like 5-6 years, so I wish I knew what was going on with that. But I was looking at your IMDb. Mr. Dreyfuss Goes to Washington. That's a while back, but is that Richard Dreyfuss?
It was, yes.
Well,
yeah.
So tell me a little more.
The film was it was a special for the History Channel, and we did a history of the city and the capital of Washington, D.C. So it took a look at the historical perspective, why D.C. was chosen, what were the major kind of the points of interest that people tend to come to D.C. for, and then a little bit of background about how the federal city interacts with the district for normal residents.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, I'm a big Richard Dreyfuss fan, so I saw that. That's very cool. So how would you say you've been impacted in the last 10 to 11 months? Have you been impacted? Have you been back on set? Have you pulled the trigger on any projects recently?
Yeah, it's been an interesting year, to say the least. I was in production for a feature documentary that I've been directing. It's my first work as a director on a feature-length film. And we had to back off of production for a while. Several of my clients also, kind of went full stop in the springtime. I was lucky in that a lot of the contracts that I had carried on through April. And it's been fascinating. I did get back out in the field this summer with a project for Channel 4 and another for a feature documentary. It's been interesting. I shot an ad, was the first thing I did during COVID, and it was actually during the lockdown. And I work with a number of DPs, great DPs in the area, but Sheila Smith is one of the ones that I work quite a bit with, and she and I went out to shoot this commercial, and we were like the only people out on the street in town. It was really bizarre, and of course for us it was weird because we're used to working together, and we fully masked up and 12 or 14 feet apart from each other, and kind of managing all of that. We had to get special letters so that we could be in the streets of DC. But there was one point where we were literally standing in the middle of Pennsylvania Avenue shooting, and there was nobody else there. Yeah. It's coming. I think it's coming back pretty quickly. I've got a lot of friends who are working and out in the field. I've done a couple of studio shoots, and like I said, some field production. It's there's a lot you got to pay attention to. It's I think stressful just because there's so much, especially if you're working with a crew, you have to be taking care of them. So most of what I've done over the past year has been kind of in the edit suite and working remotely with my editors.
Yeah, and for me too, I agree. You know, for me, it was a lot of experimentation and a lot of like, let me play around with some kind of, you know, editing, some graphics. You know, I subscribe to, you know, a lot of, I subscribe to two different uh, effects boutiques, I guess, you know, where
Uh-huh.
you can download some templates. You know, I was experimenting a lot with those and seeing what I can, you know, tweak and play with and maybe utilize for some, you know, some of my projects. You know, I've utilized a lot of it for this podcast and for another web series. And yeah, I mean, over the course of the 10 months, um, even dabbling with some music production apps, you know, like some simple,
Hmm.
what is, Groove Pad. There's, you know,
Yeah.
there's this app for the you know, iOS, Groove Pad, where you can kind of play around with music and samples and make beats and stuff like that. And I kind of, you know, was tinkering around a little bit with that stuff, and you know, it was fun. And it's definitely, you know, this is definitely the time to experiment and kind of, you know, mess with things that you were maybe planning on, but never had the opportunity, maybe never had the time. But
Yeah, exactly. I did some playing around with some After Effects stuff as well. That's not, that's not my strong suit. I can edit in Premiere,
oh yeah,
but After Effects I've never quite tackled, so it's been fun playing with that a little bit.
yeah, I agree. And you know, in the beginning of the quarantine, it was, I started this podcast, and then I pulled the trigger on a whole bunch of editing of stuff I had in the can, and then it was just a lot of writing, and then you know, kind of like maybe experimenting and dabbling into things that I had no idea what I was doing. But I I feel lucky and I feel blessed. I've been able to, you know, play around with different things like that. But so you've been back on set. You mentioned this documentary, and you mentioned something for Channel 4. What? Uh, let's start with the Channel 4 thing, because that's is that British? That's like, that's similar to
It's a
BBC, right?
yeah, yeah. I've worked for years with the British broadcasters, and I'm very lucky that I get called up often to go do field work here in the States
Mm-hmm.
when they've got stuff they've got to do. So, just doing some small interviews around town, and kind of helping them navigate COVID and, get their directors and their camera people tested when they arrived.
Mm-hmm.
Coming from the UK, they had to quarantine and do all kinds of stuff. So,
So did you get? Are you COVID compliance certified, or do you have a COVID compliance
you
officer?
know, I'm not. I have there was one. I did a big studio shoot, actually big for COVID. I think there were 10 of us on set, which was a little nerve wracking. It was the first time I've actually been in a closed set with more than two people.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a COVID compliance officer come in, which helped an awful lot because he just managed all of the details.
Yeah.
And we actually had a situation where we had to deny someone access. And we were really lucky to
Oh
have him
wow.
because we didn't have to, the crew didn't have to be involved. It was very easy for him to step in and say, okay, here's the protocols. You had them beforehand, and I'm sorry, but we can't let you on set.
Yeah.
Um, so that I'd love to learn more about being a compliance officer. I'm here to tell you that's a job that's probably going to stick around for at least a year, if not more.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, you raised a good point, and I got the first Moderna shot. I'm in the DC National Guard,
Hmm.
and after dealing with the whole nightmare of this whole past month, you know, but I got the first Moderna shot, and you know, during that briefing, they said, you know, well, you're, you know, you should get the second. We all should be getting the second shot within 25 to 35 days of today's date, and blah blah blah. And then a lot of questions is, hey, once I get the second shot, you know, do I need to be social distancing? Do I need to be wearing a mask? And they said, oh, absolutely. And not only that, but everything that we've been going through with 2020, you know, just basically be prepared. You know, keep a mental note. that's going to go past summer 2021. So for me, I always double everything up. So I'm looking at all of 2021 to be just like 2020, regardless of vaccines, regardless of who got vaccines, until they somehow know 100% planet Earth population has gotten the vaccine. You know, something like that. If there's some kind of app that can track that, you know. So it's pretty much just going to be 2021 is treat 2021 like you did 2020, essentially.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. There you go. We got neighbors
There
driving
you
by
go.
with nice big.
Bumping that
Yeah,
bass.
the rock and the bass. I think we're probably looking at another 18 months before we get back to any semblance of normal. And even then, these viruses keep coming up. Uh, so I don't know. I like to think that in our industry, we'll keep moving on. We know, if nothing else, people are who really wanting content. So finding
Yeah,
those
they are.
ways to get stuff done. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've been surprised at how quickly the industry in the DC area is bouncing back.
Absolutely.
It's great. It's actually
Well,
great
it's
news
not
for
that
everybody.
hard. It's not that hard. I mean, just starting, what was it, over the summer with the Antifa and the BLM marches, and just from there all the way up to now, plenty of content. It's there's no shortage of content with the inauguration, and you know, all sorts of protests and marches and movements, and
Right, but even outside the nonfiction,
yeah,
the level of narrative work and feature film work that's going on, that's really encouraging. To me, that's where you start to see that, um, our industry is gonna bounce back probably faster than a lot of others.
I can't wait. And so the kind of morbidly good news, the kind of you know, turning lemons into lemonade is from my duties in the National Guard, I contracted COVID and unfortunately passed it on to my wife and kid, 10-month-old son. But they had battled it. They got through it. I got through it. According to the CDC. Now, according to the CDC, you can't get it again unless it's like a super mutated thing in a year or something. So, of course, I'm going to get the second vaccine. They're going to work on getting the vaccine and all that. But we already had it. So with the good news that the DMV's film and TV thing is start, the whole summer we were super duper strict. I mean, I was extremely self-limiting myself and extremely self-disciplined and self-sacrificing. I can't take this, can't take this, can't take this, can't take this. But hey, now that I got it, it's like, hey, the floodgates are more open for me anyway. I'm willing to take, you know, all the gigs now that I wasn't before, and just wear a mask, you know, and obviously, you know, do that. But I'd say the risks are smaller for me personally. And
Yeah, I could see that. Unfortunately, I'm not in that. I'm not
yeah,
in that area.
yeah,
I'm anxious to get the vaccine, but I personally have asthma, so we've been
right,
really strict in our household and
absolutely.
keeping track of it. It's funny because I have a friend of mine. She and her husband traveled. They had a family emergency and had to travel, and they drove instead of flew, and ended up picking it up along the way. They're pretty sure where, they know they had to stop overnight, and they're pretty sure they know where they got it. But it's like they stepped outside of their bubble and wham.
Hey, just stepping outside the car, apparently. I mean,
Yeah.
it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. No, I'm going to drive and I'm going to wear this. I'm gonna wear this biosuit, this huge that huge plastic thing. I'm gonna wear a mask inside the biosuit with the big, and then you know, the second you take it off to like go number one at your hotel room in private, it's like that's where you got it, because
Yep.
the maid, somebody, one maid touched that bottle, the other maid used it, and then it got somewhere. You know, it's you never know. And you know, we were super. I went to a military school from October to November. For a month, I was gone. I was going to this school. We were staying in 2-man rooms, always masks, always hand sanitizer, always, social distancing. Didn't get it. And then one day out there in DC in January, I think it was just either the first or the second day I was out there. And then the next day I got a text, somebody tested positive. So we all isolated, got tested. We all, like, just about 75% of us came back positive. But it was just like that within a day. I mean, I was gone for a month, nothing. Within 2 days of going here and going there, got it. You never know.
Yeah, you don't. But hopefully, like you said, you got your first shot. My mom got her first shot a week or so ago. I'm waiting I'm in Maryland, so they're not quite doing as quickly as DC is, but yeah, hopefully soon.
Yeah. My wife's a teacher. She was telling me about, the 1 alpha groups and the 1 Bravo groups or something like that. And you've got seniors, you've got teachers, you've got first responders.
And healthcare workers, people in long-term facilities. Yeah.
So I think they're still in Maryland. They're still stuck on, like, their original schedule. Well, their original hopes were they would have been on the next group by now. I think they're still on this. I don't know which one they're on now and which one they were supposed to be on, but I know that they're 1 level behind or something like that.
Yeah. It's at least in Montgomery County, there's just not enough vaccine to go around.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I'm hoping that production speeds up here quickly and they start to just kind of churn it out. I was listening to a report about the next 2 vaccines that are about to come out that sound really promising. So
absolutely. Oh yeah, man. Yeah. I mean, it's just a matter of patience. It's a matter of due diligence. It's a matter of, taking care. We got to start at the home and take care of the immediate family and then further out and further out and further out. But going back to the 2 projects you have, Channel 4, and then there's this other documentary now. I mean, obviously spoilers or NDAs or whatever, but what can you tell me about this other documentary that you're back and working on?
I've been working on a documentary about voter suppression for about 3 years now, and we've been heavily editing this year. It's really it's exciting. It's just kind of crazy. A lot of what we were following a Supreme Court case from 2 years ago. And it just so happens that the attorneys and the plaintiffs in the case ended up in the middle of kind of everything that is relevant right now. So it's been fascinating.
You said photo suppression?
Voter suppression.
Voter suppression. Okay.
Voter suppression. Voting rights issues. So I'm very thankful that I've had the time to really kind of dig in and move it along in a way that I probably wouldn't have been able to if it hadn't been for the lockdowns. That's the blessing and the curse. I miss the work and the income that I had, but luckily I was in a position where I could just take 6 months and really start to focus on this. So it hasn't been all for naught.
Yeah. Well, what's so not counting the Channel 4 in the documentary, what's next on the agenda? What's the next set of plans, next set of goals? What's next on the agenda, say, for the next year?
It's a really good question. So, the hope is that we finish the edit on the film sometime in the next couple of months. And then I've been working with a couple of companies, taking a look at how the industry is going to evolve after all of this and where things go from here. So I've been doing some strategic planning with some distribution companies and kind of helping them take a look at what's on, just kind of waiting until the next project comes along, which is the nature of the beast around here.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I did a self-submit, but I did a self-submit a couple of days ago, and
Uh-huh.
it probably looked and sounded terrible. I hope I did a good job. I hope they're able to see through that and understand, these are self-submits. These are shot on like iPhones at home, and
Yeah.
you got to do the best you can with a junky living room with a 10-month-old, and you got toys and dirty dishes everywhere, and it's like you got to find that perfect time. It's like 11:45 p.m. The wife's gone to bed. Let me hurry up and shoot this self-submit, and then get
Yeah.
it's such a tricky juggling act.
You're right, to try and keep it all going. Yeah, no, in our house, especially because between my daughter's doing her high school classes, my husband's doing all the Zoom meetings from his work, and we all kind of go to our corners and see what we can do to keep
Right.
things as quiet as possible while we're doing what we're doing. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tricky, and you'd think, oh, you got all the time in the world to sit back and like set up this locked down. What do you know what I'm talking about? You have a set that's like, like a walkaway
Yeah, you just
set.
are.
But
Yeah,
it's
you're
like
set up in it. Yeah.
a permanent
Yeah.
installed set.
Yeah.
It's like it's turnkey. Oh, the video audition set up. I mean, I got the podcast set up.
Uh-huh.
That's been tinkered with for the past 10 months. It's been tinkered and bettered and improved, slight improvements every day. And then but at one point it was like absolutely no self-submits, then there was one, and then absolutely none for another 4 months, and then there was 1-2 days ago, and I'm like, oh crap, how the hell am I going to pull off this self-submit? All this gear, no space left, no rooms to shoot in, nothing. Got to do it all the way because everybody sleeps on the third floor. So on the first floor, I got to do it. So I can only do it somewhere down here. I'm gonna start waking the kids up.
Yeah.
The kid, I mean, the kid or the wife. But yeah, it's a crazy juggling act.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, Got to stretch your creative chops and see what you can make happen.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
what so with your next agenda and finishing the films and looking out for the next project, what are you looking for? What drives you? What inspires you to take something? What's that keyword when someone's trying to book you, or you're out there trying to book
Story. I mean, it really does kind of come down to, it's got to be something. Well, there are two, so I put my work in two buckets. There's the work for hire I do, to pay the mortgage. And I'm proud of a lot of the work that I do for that. But if I'm looking for something long term, it's got to be something that's interesting. It's got to have some interesting characters or some kind of twist that just makes it not feel tedious.
Yeah.
So I've gotten lucky. I've gotten to interview all kinds of interesting people and work on all kinds of different types of projects that allow me to be creative and fun and make some cool stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get that. For me, right now, doing it professionally, being a professional actor, being a professional filmmaker, I already love doing it. I think what drives me is that if the project is not porn or not a family event, and when I say a family event, I don't do weddings, I don't do bar mitzvahs or bat mitzvahs, I don't do like birthday videos, I don't do any of those kind of family event things, because those will drive you nuts. And obviously I'm not going to do porn, but everything else, like, I pretty much say yes to, because it's on set. Whether it's, a lot of people might think, the corporate and industrial stuff is just boring, and the subject matter can be boring, but there are ways to be very creative and very experimental with live streaming or these corporate events, conferences, industrial training, like those training videos that people shoot, and military stuff. I mean, for me, it's just, just
Oh yeah.
you know, life on set. You know, it's just that's the quarantine has been. I've been able to pull a lot of stuff out of the quarantine, but the dream was just always to be living on set. You know, I love it, to travel, to shoot whatever here, there, and everywhere. I mean, it's just set life.
Yeah, I have to admit I miss the travel. The last before I guess 2019, my travel schedule was a little more intense than I would like. I was probably traveling 2 weeks out of every month, but um, I miss not traveling at all now. So that's probably been the
Yeah,
biggest sacrifice uh, over the last year, is not being able to. I mean, forget, you know, I love my frequent flyer miles. I love the fact that my husband can fly with me wherever I have to go because, you know, I'm at whatever Uber level, but I just miss the locations, you know,
yeah.
and meeting all the different people. So that's been a bit of a bummer.
Are you going to be able to keep your freaking flyer miles? They're not going to deduct your
Yeah,
for this.
actually, you know, I just got all these notices that, especially because people still aren't flying, it's like you're set until 2022, and I'm like, great.
Yeah,
Because I'm certainly not getting in a plane anytime soon. But I think they realize it. So um, yeah, actually, all of them this week sent out notices saying they've, because originally I think people just thought that this would be done by now, and so they extended. It's like, we're gonna keep your status until June,
no,
um, and January rolled around, and all of a sudden it's like, yeah, we're keeping it through December.
yeah.
It's like, okay.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. You know, I used to love the travel. I don't like the commute, and I don't like to commute, and I don't like traffic, and I hate driving. And honestly, that's the upside with this quarantine is I feel like I've gotten 3 times as much done,
Mhm.
and not no miles on the car. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? But I mean,
No gas
sometimes
bills.
exactly, exactly. I mean, especially because I got this new car about a year ago, very very gas mileage friendly, very compact. It was perfect for all the gigs in DC, to like slip into like the tiny little parking spots in the garages, or slip into like the tiniest little crevice of street parking. uh but but then 2 months after I bought the freaking thing, pandemic, lockdown, not going anywhere. But I'm not missing that driving. I'm not missing those commutes. But you're right. I mean, some of the beauty of these gigs, these random gigs that take you to New Orleans, they take you to Montreal, they take you to Florida, they take you to Texas, wherever. And, it's unfortunate. In April, I had one in Montreal, and
Mhm.
obviously canceled, pandemic. But
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
I was gonna say, because it's Sundance week, and so for people who do the festivals, I keep getting all these reminders. Here's where you were 5 years ago. Here's where you were 3 years ago, and
hmm
it's all of the all the Sundance pictures and stuff like that popping up. And that to me has been, I mean, I think the festival organizers have done a great job creating online experiences that keep people engaged. But there's nothing that compares to being in the space with a whole bunch of people that have the same passions that you do, and honestly, just to be able to sit down. I mean, the thing I love most about Sundance is, you can start early in the morning and you just jump from theater to theater until, the middle of the night. Uh,
hmm
and it's just not quite the same. Um, sure, you can log on, and like I've got my Sundance schedule, and starting this weekend, it's packed with films every couple of hours, but it's not the same as, you know, hopping on a bus with a whole bunch of people and driving from one theater to the next one and things like that.
yeah. Yeah, I
All the
remember.
networking parties and stuff like that. Yeah, none of that.
Yeah, I mean, me and the wife, we missed the trips we took to Florida, and we did like an engagement vacation to Sweden. We did our honeymoon in Italy, and then it's just we really haven't done anything. And I think the upside is we've saved a lot of money,
Mm.
and we can invest a lot of more money and kind of experiment with some of the extra money we saved. We can kind of experiment with some investments or playing with this and dabble with that or whatever. But still, those trips and that traveling, those experiences are more valuable than anything else. To be able to go somewhere you've never been, take photos, social media, putting it on Facebook and Instagram and bragging about it. I mean, that we're definitely looking forward to getting back into that kind of lifestyle.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
what did I say? Mid 2022. I think that's what our plan will be, is 2022. The summer of 2022 will probably be traveling somewhere. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, what's the new year, new you, the new normal, the new Lynn, new year, new you? What comes to mind when I bring up that kind of confusing, convoluted?
I'm trying to be more intentional about the decisions that I make. So being very clear when I start on a project, what it is I'm planning on getting out of it, what is it I might be able to learn, what kind of experience am I expecting, and what are those things. We've got a great opportunity now. I think we've kind of been forced into this slow down, really examine, what's the next phase of my career here? What do I want to do over the next few years before I kind of park myself somewhere and just hang out with my husband and, walk on beaches and do nothing really other than that. So intentional is my word for the year. And I think for the projects that I'm looking at, I'm going to, focus on things that have an impact. I feel like I want to make sure that what I'm contributing out into, the streaming ethersphere, whatever, is something worthy of actually having airtime.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
absolutely intentional. I get that.
Yeah.
I get that. There's been a couple of projects where, for me, the desire to do something, that's what I have to feed. And there's been, half of them have been intentional. I have this intentional vision. I have this intention of how I want it perceived, or how I want it, directed, how I want it executed. But then there's been that drive to, I got to be creative.
Mm-hmm.
But there's this, okay, snowball, roll it down the hill. Let's kind of just see where it goes. It's not intentional. It's very experimental. It's just very like, let's run with it. Let's just see what happens. Like, who cares? Because for me, I think always the intention is to pull the trigger on something. Just do it. Like Nike said, sometimes you just got to do it. You only have half your budget. Hey, let's figure out a way.
Mm-hmm.
Let's figure it out anyway. Let's knock this out. I mean, let's be intentional, but at the same time, some projects have to be, a bullseye with everything. And some projects, it's just like, hey, let's just roll this snowball down. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes absolute sense. I guess for me, what I'm thinking is, there have been times in my career where, the most important thing, like I said, was making a mortgage payment, or, I wanted to work with X studio or network to have it on my resume, just to be able to check that off the list.
Mm-hmm.
And so kind of moving away from those decisions.
Yeah.
I think, when, it's the power of visualization. When I have an idea of what I want to see, how I want my work to impact what kinds of things. Projects that fit that need tend to come walking through the door. So if I'm focusing on the right things, and by that I mean that I'm going to make the decision for a right reason, as opposed to, you know, just because somebody called me or whatever, then I find myself in the middle of, you know, the most interesting thing in the world. You know, like you said, sometimes these industrial or some of these other projects that walk up are absolutely fascinating. Looks like it could be the driest thing you've ever done. But if you look at what the story is, what kind of, you know, how you can bring something creative to the fore, and not just kind of go with, you know, the same old, you can end up having a really great experience.
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it's from my favorite. I mean, these were bad guys. So, you know, Tarantino's directorial debut, Reservoir Dogs. There was a quote in that movie where it was, you know, the big crime boss was talking to Mr. Orange, who turned out to be this undercover cop, but he was telling this long, convoluted story in the movie, and the big boss eventually said to him, like, "Well, I guess that's where you either shit your pants or you jump in and swim." And that always kind of resonated with me. And it's always like these crime movies where it's always the criminals that have the best quotes, like Scarface or you know, like, you know, some of the bad guys from Reservoir Dogs or whatever. It's always the crime movies. The Godfathers always have like the best quotes that you can kind of take into running a business. You can always take these quotes into running a business or, you know, finishing a film, directing a film, that kind of motivation, that kind of mindset, that no holds barred kind of mindset. But that always stuck with me. It's either you stand there and you shit your pants, or you just jump in and swim, and you get it, you know, you get the thing done, or whatever the case may be. And that always kind of stuck with me. And there's a number of other quotes too that stick with me, but I always think of that, and it's like, you know, hesitation, fear, anxiety, frustration, or it's just like, hey, listen, this is not going the right way, but let's kind of steer it back on track. But we just keep going. We can't quit, you know. Just knock this thing out. Yeah. Well, if there was no, you go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I mean, that's kind of my philosophy on the set. It's, you know, stuff happens and you either adjust and, you know, work through it, find a way around it, make it work, or, you know, you're not going to be really successful in this business.
Yeah.
People don't like folks who can't take curveballs.
I love curveballs.
And yeah, I mean, I'd love for everything to go absolutely perfect, but it doesn't. Just kind of take a look and see where you go from there. How do you pivot? Where do you go from there?
Well, for me, it just dawned on me, I think about 5 years ago, where it's like, if you can't control the rain and you can't control wind, you know, it's like, okay, you kind of have to take these mishaps. I can give you two examples. I was a second AD on a film and I totally biffed. I totally misunderstood someone else telling me that I need to book all these extras. I thought I was wrangling them, but he said, I need you to book them. I need you to respond. Here's access to this one email address. I need you to, like, you know, coordinate with all them to show up on one days. And as a second AD, you know, I thought that was for somebody else to do. And he was like, no, I need you to do it. And I'm like, oh, holy crap. So I go in and I start like working overtime, reaching out to these people. I only booked half of them. So the director's pissed at me. And I said, hey, listen, I'll take the hit on this. I biffed it. Here's what you can do to not only save my ass, but save the film, save the scene. Just, the party is lame. We were supposed to have all these college-looking kids show up to this party, and they wanted a packed house. Hey, listen, I biffed it. I screwed up. But let's work the scene as if it's really late night the party's dying down. The party's kind of lame now, or the party was always just lame. And these frat kids are just always drunk, and there's almost never anybody at the house. And the director was like, okay, that kind of works, and it's more funny, it's more realistic, and you know, they kind of worked on that. But I totally biffed it. But to save my ass, I kind of like said, hey, listen, here's a way we can work it, and it might work out, and it kind of did. And then we kind of played some other humorous things into the scene where, since the party got busted, everybody left. And, you know, we played a couple of funny scenes where these kids snuck out behind the cops' back and blah, 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 blah. And then there was another project I was working on where we shot a bunch of episodes. The first 5 episodes we shot with this one actor. He talked with his normal accent. And then by the 6th episode, he decided to put on a completely different accent and play around with this accent. And I somehow must have missed it until we got through 2 more episodes of this thing. And then I'm like, all right, I just realized you've been doing this for like the past 3 episodes, that you changed your accent. Oh, I thought I would do something. I'm like, bro, but the first 5 episodes, you did not have this accent. Well, the character is like this government agent. And so we were like, okay, well, maybe you got all these different covers, you know, like these, the secret identities that government agents have. Something just slipped out of your mind and you started doing this other cover. So we can kind of play in that. And then as we were prepping for the 3rd episode, but then as we were prepping for the 3rd episode, he goes, well, give me some background on this character. I'm like, dude, you decided to do the accent. You do your own freaking research. I'm not going to like pile on 10 more days of prep work as the director because you chose to do that halfway through season 2. All that research is on you, buddy. And so then we started shooting some promo stuff for the 3rd season. He went back to talking to his real life accent. And it's like, okay, dude, I don't know what you're doing. It's fine with me. That can be like this bizarre thing that audiences pick up on and kind of tease. And we can have like this deeper kind of inside joke on it, which is fine. You're not going to tack on a whole bunch of more work from me because you chose to like experiment. That is you want to be more creative as an actor. You could do that by all means.
Not in the middle of the season. Yeah.
Hey, look, even with that, I'm fine with that, but I'm not going to do a whole bunch of prep work for your character. You have to do that. You chose to like do some random Southern Tennessee accent. That's fine, but you're going to have to do the legwork on your character study, on your character background, on your method acting. I'm not going to do that for you. So, I mean, you know, it's just like these little hiccups that are like, hey, let's play with it. Let's run with it. But there's no need to like make things even harder for yourself because you get a curveball. Right. Hey, listen, swing away anyway. You know what I mean? Or yeah. Or go right back up to that and try to swing again and you work with it. And I mean, listen, at the end of the day, we got into films because probably we were all kids that loved films.
Right.
And watching film and experiencing a movie or a film is fun. So even though there's $1 million involved, or there's $1 billion, or there's $100,000, I mean, this is kind of serious business. At the same time, it still has to be fun. You know?
Yeah. It's not worth it if it's not, you know, we didn't decide to go into medicine. We're not curing cancer. So if we can't have fun while we're doing this, you know, what's the point?
I mean, it might be a documentary about curing cancer, and that's a serious subject. But at the same time, you know, as far as filmmaking goes, being an actor, being a filmmaker, you have to love what you do and you have to have fun doing it.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It totally slipped my mind what I was going to ask you, but
oh
my gosh, curveball. Well, crap. What was I saying? So curveball and then Tennessee. Well, screw it. What's one last What's one last point or one last bit of advice that you'd want to, put out to what few viewers I do have?
I would say I'm trying to take a look, like I said, at this year as an opportunity. I think there's going to be a big pivot in the industry. I think we're already starting to see it. Things are getting decentralized because of COVID. You don't have to live in New York. You don't have to live in LA to do what we do. And folks are realizing that, and they're seeing that there's a lot of creativity and there's a lot of good content coming from all over the place. So I think, it's kind of on us to take advantage of that and to make some noise and just let people know that we could do what we want to do, just like other industries. We can do what we want to do. We can do it from here. There are a lot of really talented people in this community, and we don't have to go anywhere else to be able to create cool stuff.
No, you're right. I actually got into like this little bicker with somebody, and he started mentioning like Hollywood this and Hollywood that. I'm like, bro, I don't think they shoot anything in Hollywood anymore. They don't shoot anything in Hollywood anymore. You got New Mexico, Albuquerque, New Mexico, Atlanta, New Orleans now, like right outside New Orleans. Louisiana's got like 7 or 8 different shows going on. Canada, people have been shooting in Vancouver and
Oh yeah, you can't, wherever
yeah.
the money is, you can't. Areas that have had incentives. That's where a lot of the work goes.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, no,
Who's talking about Hollywood anymore? Like, oh, Mr. Big Hollywood. I'm like, Hollywood, like that's where most of the offices maybe are, but no one's doing anything in Hollywood anymore. It's you're right. Florida, and there was like a new. I mean, like there's Richmond's kind of blowing up.
Richmond's done a really good job of setting themselves up as they're focusing on period pieces, and they've really built up a lot of resources for people who want to go back in time, if it's colonial or if it's the 50s. They've made a good mark kind of creating the facilities and building the crew, to make sure that happens, and that's really great. But we've got a lot of stuff happening here. You take a look at Baltimore, what they've done through the years, even back in the Tom Fontana days and things like that. But more recently, all those folks that worked on House of Cards and Veep and any of those other series, they're here. They live here. And so you don't have to go very far to find really, really solid talent that can do pretty much anything.
Not at all. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all about like your mindset and utilizing technology. I mean, when I graduated Towson in 2004, and I don't think we had Craigslist then. I don't think we had even the websites staffed me up, Production Hub, Craigslist.
Oh yeah, none of that.
And I was blessed. I got a job at Discovery Channel right out of college. But a couple of years later, there was YouTube. I started throwing everything on YouTube for that public exposure. And then, Craigslist, Production Hub. And now all those websites have apps. Now everything's just right on the phone. And it's like booking gigs on the app. You go on the website, you set up your profile, you set up some auto messaging things. You got your headshots, you got your resume, you got your production reel, you got your links. But then it's all on the phone. Just booking gigs for an hour in the morning on the phone, in bed, maybe watching some YouTube in the background, and booking gigs. And then it's just incredible. You can book voiceover actors and work with them remotely. You can probably book some cinematographers and videographers in states and give them a shot list, give them a price quote, give them a shot list, and say, I need, and get some B-roll from them, some second unit stuff from them, all remotely, and then piece it together yourself
Mhm.
and in a totally different state, 500,000 miles away.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's really easy. It's really easy to pull that off.
Yeah. Well, Lynn,
So,
Lynn, I can't thank you enough for coming on. I'm excited about the Channel 4 thing and the other documentary, and I can't wait to see that stuff come out. And glad to hear you back on set, and or semi back on set.
so I'm
However.
back on. So
Yeah.
yeah. So, well, thanks. It's been great chatting with you.
Great chatting with you. Can't thank you enough for coming on. Lynn Hughes, Docs in Progress, independent filmmaker, documentarian. And to my viewers, I hope I've earned the privilege of your time and viewership. I know my guest has. And until next time, you know what to do.